Hello. In this video, we're going to go through the 5.2.2 graphing in Vertex form. And it would be helpful if you would pause this video and get this table and a coordinate plane sketched. Notice that my coordinate plane counts by 2's, but you're more than welcome to just count by 1's in yours. So pause it now and get these two things written down. So when we are graphing, we want to first identify if our equation is in vertex form or not. If it is in vertex form, then we know where to begin, because we don't want to just fill out our table with like 0 in the middle, because we don't know where this equation is on the graph. If it's centered at 0, then that would be where we would want to center our table. But if it's not centered at 0, then starting at 0 might not give us any sort of clear picture about our graph. It might not even have our graph on it. And so what we want to do is we want to find the center, which is the vertex. So in the middle of your table will always go the middle of your quadratic, which is our vertex. And in vertex form, which this is because we have parentheses, our vertex is h, k. And h is inside the parentheses and k is outside. But remember that h is a liar. H is a liar. And so when we are finding our vertex, we want to do the opposite of what h says. So instead of -2, it is +2. And then k is not a liar, which is the outside of the parentheses. So inside parentheses is a liar, and then outside is telling the truth. So we have 2, -4 for our vertex. And the x value here, which is going to tell us where to center our graph, is 2. And then I want to build my x values around this. So I'm going to do smaller ones above and bigger ones below. So I have 1 and 0, and then 3 and 4. And so this is our center. That's why we want to put this in the middle. So I find my vertex first, and then I use the x value to tell me where to begin. Now, for these other ones, I'm going to plug in my x value to this equation. And so I'm just going to rewrite the equation, but instead of x, I'm going to put 0. And you don't really need the y equals part, so you can kind of ignore that part for now. So you get -3 parentheses 0 minus 2 squared minus 4. And I like to write all of mine down and then go in and calculate them, but you can also just like type this in your calculator now, figure out what this is, and then do the next one. I like to just write all of them first. So again, I'm writing this exact same thing, but instead of x, I'm putting a 1 this time. I don't need anything here because I already have my answer. And then again, writing this exact same equation, but instead of x, I'm putting a 3. And same thing, but instead of x, I'm putting a 4. Make sure you always go back and look at the original when you plug in your values. So now we are going to actually type these into a calculator. So you can use the Google calculator. Just remember that the Google calculator has the button x to the y instead of x squared. Or you can use a regular calculator or your Chromebook calculator. And we are just going to type these exactly as they're written. So -3 parentheses 0 minus 2 squared minus 4. And I get -16. So that means this point is 0, -16. Now I want to do the next one. I have -3, 1 minus 2 squared minus 4 is -7. So I have 1, -7. Down here, I also get -7, and that's a good sign. So this is 3, -7. And so you'll notice that if you picked the correct middle, which you should have matching values. So the middle one is its own person, but then these two should match. And then hopefully these last two should match because we have symmetry in quadratics. So it makes sense that they would have matching values. So let's check the last one. And we get -16, which is what we were hoping for. I would not recommend just assuming, like if you do this top one, you're like, oh, I get -16, I'm definitely going to get -16 down here. I would not recommend that only because if you made a mistake with this first one and then you put it down here, now you've made 2 mistakes. So instead, I would recommend typing all these out, and then if you don't get matching values, go back and retype them. If you still don't get matching values, you probably picked the wrong vertex. So see if you remembered that H was a liar. The middle one is a liar. And once you have these values, you're just going to plug them into your coordinate plane. So -16 isn't on my graph, so I'm going to skip that one. We really only need 3 points to make our quadratic. It just looks better if you have more. So I'm going to skip this one for now. 1, -7, so +1. Remember, mine count by 2s, so I need to go halfway. And then halfway, so here's my 1, -7. 2, -4. And 3, -7. And then again, 16 is off the graph. So remember, we want ours to look like either a U or an upside down U. So this one looks like it's going to be an upside down one, and I want to make it into a U shaped. So I usually start with my vertex and just kind of scoop down on both sides. And there is my graph. I do want to talk about one more, and I'm not going to go through all of it, but I do want to talk about it. So for this one, when we identify our H and our K, so remember our vertex goes in the middle, my H is a liar, so I get -5. K tells the truth. And so I have -5 in the middle. When you have negative numbers, the smaller ones look bigger. So like smaller than -5 is -6, -7. Bigger than -5 is -4 and -3. It's not the biggest deal in the world if you get those mixed up. It just makes you graph your quadratic backwards when you get here, but that's fine. And then when you go to plug this in, I wanted to talk about this fraction. When you plug it in, you can change any fraction to a decimal to make it easier. So 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. So when I type this in, I might do 0.25 and then -7 plus 5 squared plus 2. So I might plug it in that way so I don't have to type a fraction every single time. I think typing this decimal is a little bit easier. And so you could finish this one out to see what you get. I will, if you pause it and then come back to it to see it, I'll put the answers on. So for this quadratic, here's my answers that I got. And you'll notice that I have a decimal. And you're just going to do your best to estimate where that would be. So for me, I just put it a little bit above where 2 would be. And then I drew my quadratic from there. The last quick thing to mention is that if you don't have parentheses, so you don't have anything inside here, it just says like x squared, that means your h value is 0. And if you don't have anything over here, it means your k value is 0. So just if there's not anything there, it still exists, it's just the number 0. And that will help you find your vertex. I hope this helped.